Hello, everyone, and welcome to King's Advisors. Here we are again talking about 007. And boy, do I love talking about 007. 007 movies are probably in my top tier of franchises throughout history. I absolutely love them. With the exception of the last two, I don't think there's a bad one in the bunch. So, an article came out on Variety recently, and I'll go ahead and share it now. So, this article is all about an interview between Barbara Broccoli, who is the executive producer of James Bond, and The Guardian, which is obviously the UK's Times or whatever. And so this interview is about how they haven't even begun reinventing the franchise after Daniel Craig's 007 retirement. There's a big road ahead. Now, we're going to go through this article, and I'm going to kind of act as both prosecutor and defender, because I'm not quite sure this article is saying what a lot of people say it's saying. And I think that the big thing that's telling is the fact that you can see right here in a recent interview with The Guardian. And if we go to this article, here's the interview with The Guardian. And what you'll notice is there's nothing different in this. There's no, Q&A. It's the same stuff as the Variety article. So with an issue like this, Daniel Craig gave us the ability to mine the emotional life of the character, and also the world was ready for it. Well, what was in between those two statements? As I look through this Guardian article, I don't see anything telling me what's in between those two statements. And so all these articles keep saying the same stuff, but they're doing it in a way that will enrage and drive clicks. So let's look through this article real quick. In a recent interview with The Guardian, Broccoli shared that executives haven't even begun modernizing the franchise, adding that there is a big road ahead before the James Bond character is, quote, reinvented for the next chapter. Okay, now that's worrisome, because what does that mean? Are you talking about we're going to feminize James Bond and he's not going to be a womanizer? He's not going to have, Bond girls anymore. We know from issues on the set of No Time to Die that when Phoebe Waller-Bridger got involved, she banned the word Bond girl. So that's already concerning. So what does this mean? Are we saying that we have to figure out who Bond's going to be fighting in a 21st century movie? Okay, well that's not as big a deal. And I say that because if you look right here, we see Daniel Craig gave us the ability to mine the emotional life of the character, and also the world was ready for it. Now, I already ranted about my issue with them cutting out whatever is in the middle there. Broccoli said, adding that she wanted to, quote, focus on what a 21st century hero would look like. Okay, still, this is a quote taken from an interview to drive us crazy because we don't know what they're saying there. Now, we're going to move on to the next thing, and I think it's going to kind of explain what these things they're talking about are. We can see right here. I go back to GoldenEye when everyone was saying the Cold War is over. The wall is over. Bond is dead. No need for Bond. The whole world's at peace. And now there's no villains. And boy, was that wrong, Broccoli emphasized. Now, let's recall GoldenEye comes out in 1995, 6 years after the Berlin Wall has fallen and communism has been defeated. The Soviet Union is over, and Russia and the US and the UK and all of them have started engaging in actual political and diplomatic dialogue. So the character born out of the Cold War, like 007, especially those last, 6 or 7 movies prior to GoldenEye, there's no more big enemy to base everything off of. That's why in GoldenEye, there was the rogue agent and the rogue Russian general that basically were trying to capture the satellite so that they could destroy the planet and send out that electrical burst. And later in The World Is Not Enough, it's a oil thing. You know, after that, we get North Korea, the news agency in Tomorrow Never Dies. So we started changing who the bad guy was. It was no longer the same bad guy, and there was no longer a entity behind them. And then obviously with Daniel Craig, they decided to go the whole Spectre route. But I think what this article is really saying and what the interview is really saying without having being able to read the actual interview because the Guardian hasn't posted it or whatever. There's no way of figuring out the exact context of all of these quotes. But I think the big thing that they're trying to figure out beyond who the next 007 will be is what is the overarching story? Because they want to do, as I discussed in my last video about 007, they want to do a multi-movie arc. So they have to have an overarching villain for this multi-movie arc. So I think that's really where this modernization is coming from. I don't think it's a making Bond, you know, not toxic. He doesn't want to have sex with beautiful women. He wants to talk about his feelings. I don't think that's what Barbara's trying to do. I think they're trying to figure out how to create a 007 movie that stands the test of time like a lot of those other movies have, and have a villain that doesn't feel made up or it feels like it could be a story that we actually have today. So I think that's kind of what they're trying to do, especially with trying to figure out how to do that and not make it sound like they just picked up a newspaper and said, "Oh, let's use this." As always, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at KingsAdvisors_.